What is up, GR crew? Welcome to the after show with John Kelly. We were just talking about candy, which might be our 90% of our conversations, just in life in general.
I love candy.
But we were talking about Smarties versus M&Ms versus U.S. Smarties versus Rockets, and then you said it's like a purple variety in the UK.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. But it's a little package of purple, sugary, hard sugary things.
We'll see if
like
we can. Maybe someone knows. If someone is familiar with what John is referencing, it's like a straight package of like purple. Are they chocolate or are they also chalky sugar?
Yeah, it's also chalky sugar.
Okay, so it's like the US's Smarties, but it's more purple. If someone knows the name of those, we're super curious.
Yeah,
we're basically
I'll figure it out eventually.
Talking junk food. I went to the London Olympics for a job, and I remember going to I think the local grocery store, convenience store, and just looking through their candy aisles, and I wanted everything because everything there's lots of different flavors and textures. That's like big in European candy. And
Parma violets.
Parma violets?
Parma violets.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking Viola Parms, so I wasn't too far off. Yeah.
Oh, multiple people said that. Yeah, so multiple people are familiar with that. Parma violets. I'm going to look it up. This is a great opportunity for us to chat with John about all the questions that didn't get asked during the main show, and we'll rip through as many as we possibly can. I promised a gear question. Do you have any gear questions lined up there? Otherwise, I can go into it.
There's lots of gear questions. Mandy in the chat room says, races like this take a lot of gear. Was there any piece of gear that performed especially well or failed horribly during the spine race?
Both of those would be my prototype Adventure Vest 5.0 from Ultimate Direction, which is getting released here in a few months. And the one I have still has prototype materials. And it was I was so thrilled to be able to fit this race has a pretty extensive required kit list.
I bet.
And being able to fit everything in that, an actual running vest versus using like a fast packing pack was huge. I was so excited about that. About 60 miles into the race, one of the cords on the waistband popped from when I was scrambling over some rocks and put a bit too much pressure on it. I held the strap like a sling for 10 miles or so. Just held it in place until I got to the next aid station, and we zip tied it back together, and it held after that. But yeah,
that's
getting
one
everything
of the,
in there
and straps along the back.
Yeah, where it connects the bottom of the shoulder strap around to the back of the pack.
Got it. Yep.
That snapped. So zip tie fixed that up, and again, being able to fit everything in there and have a built-in rain fly to keep my stuff from getting soaked and heavier was pretty huge.
What sort of like layers did you? One, I imagine, yeah, like you said, there's probably an extensive required list of items that you have to carry. But did you? Was there an item that you used the entire time as far as a layer is concerned that worked great? Like, was there a waterproof jacket that you're like, this is it, this is the one that works the best, or any type of thing?
Yeah, I had the same base layer the entire time. The same pair of tights and the same long sleeve top were exoskin, as well as the same socks. Although I did, whenever I stopped to sleep the 2 times, I took my socks off to let my feet dry out, and then I put a dry pair of the same type of sock back on. But that was the same the entire time. And then my waterproof shell was a La Sportiva run jacket that I kept at the same time. Just does a great job, and it's light and comfortable without really restricting my motion.
Now I just want one. Like, if it could withstand the spine race and Storm Brendan, it's got to be good. And
yeah, and
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the other important thing to remember on something like this is pretty much no matter what you have, if it's running gear as opposed to like actual expedition mountain gear, which is going to be bulkier and heavier, like you're gonna get wet. It's gonna, so like even my Gore-Tex shoes at some point with all the bogs, they soak through.
Yeah.
But then it at least provides like a wetsuit effect and keeps you warm. And so it's important to remember, like, yeah, you want to keep water out as much as you can, but eventually things inside are going to get wet, and you want to be prepared to still be warm even if you do get wet.
Right. That makes perfect sense. I'll shut up. Kim, you got lots of questions. Go for it.
Question from Ross. Ross asks, will you be back to the spine? Would love to see you set a new course record.
Uh, I'm not sure at this point. I'm still kind of processing things, and it would be hard for me to think I could go back and really achieve a more satisfying outcome. I really achieved the goal that I set out to achieve. I achieved that in spite of constant challenges and constant pressure, which was super exciting and awesome to have. It's a huge investment, both in terms of time and emotionally. There's a lot of other things I want to try, and the course record, when it comes down to it, it requires the right person in the right conditions with the right strategy. And right now, like that was, if we're playing a game of Clue, it was Jasmine last year with Eugenie
Right.
chasing her. And so it's a lot to invest with sort of that uncertainty of if the stars would align for me to do it, because it's definitely not a given thing that I could just go out and do it. She put in an incredible performance.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say it was really fun following David Roach's tweets.
You have a super fan in David Roach, man. I know he's been coaching you for a while, but it is so cool to see how much he just like loves John Kelly and supports. That was a fun one to follow during the spine too.
Yeah, that was awesome to see afterwards.
Question from Joanne in the chat room. Joanne says, John, do you think you'll ever have a go at the Wainwrights and challenge the Paul Tierney record?
Whew, that is a big one. That's again something that is an incredible feat that he did, and would be just an awesome adventure. But I would have to figure out a chunk of time where I could do that, relative to all of these other things that I want to do that kind of personally motivate me, like the Grand Round. I'm going to go give that another go during what would otherwise be kind of a prime time of year, to go after something right. So we'll see. There's a lot of awesome stuff out there, and limited time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So speaking about limited time and all these awesome things, there's a question from Chris, and Chris asked, John, how do you balance family life with training and racing?
That has been a huge part of, as I've both increased the size of my family and increased the size of my running goals, I've correspondingly got much more efficient with that. Probably the biggest aspect of it is all of my weekday miles are run commute. Like, unless I'm working from home, I don't remember the time that I had mileage that was not my commute. And just being able to take time that otherwise I would be wasting sitting on public transit or sitting in a car or whatnot, and instead getting free time for running has been enormous. Outside of that, weekends, fitting it in early or late on the treadmill or during naps, or making the family a part of it. So doing these, we've done a lot of things where we've made cool trips out of it, and we've made them feel like they're really invested in it themselves. Especially when I was triathlon training, and I would ride my bike 100 miles away to some cool destination, and then we would meet them there and have a family day.
That's really cool, being able to incorporate all that. Maybe one more question for John.
Yeah, there was another question from Ross talking about your run commutes. Ross says, do you have any additional training in addition to your commutes? And then Ross goes on to say, I saw on Strava that you ran from a gym today. Do you have any weights or gym cardio incorporated?
No. So that's, I guess that's maybe a bit of a coincidence of where the route started. But um, I had a meeting a bit away from my office and then just ran home from there. So I haven't had time to get much in the way of weights or strength training in. That's not to say that that's not a worthwhile thing. It's just something that on the limited time budget that I have, I'm getting a much larger return from spending that time on running based on my own personal goals and injury history.
Got it. Yeah, that's one last question.
One last question from Aaron. Aaron says, I have my first 100-mile race in 5 days. What is the most important advice that you can suggest?
Usually the one I give here is something that was given to me early on is just that it doesn't always get worse. And it's so hard to remember that, especially early on, that you're going to hit some low spots. Like you are going to hit some miserable spots where you want to quit and you think there is absolutely no possible way I can finish this. And it's almost a magical thing that like you keep going and you push through it and eventually like you feel better. And it's something that as you gain experience, it's one of the most valuable assets to have is being able to look back and say, I've been here before. Things have really sucked before, and I've made it out the other side. And in terms of like how Barkley helps me for something like the spine, that's probably the biggest aspect of it. I have been in some absolutely awful spots. I have made it through, so I can make it through this. And so early on, just remember that. Like you can get there, take it one section, one step at a time. You'll make it through it, and when you do, like it's going to be the most awesome, rewarding feeling. And then you're going to have that to look back on and use as strength the next time you're out there and in that spot.
It's an old David Horton quote.
Right? Did I quote Horton there?
I think you did. Isn't it? It doesn't always get worse.
Horton may have very well been the person that told me that. I don't even remember.
I think that's his famous quote. And when you said that, I was like, perfect that it's Horton. Like, kind of brings it all together. I love it.
Yeah, Horton is awesome.
Fantastic advice from John Kelly, and good luck, Aaron. Just get it done. Get the 100 miles done. 5 days. You got this. Just take the advice from John because John has done it a number of times. It's very seasoned and knows exactly what he is talking about.
One last message from the chat room from David in the chat room. David says, tell John to keep up his Thursday thoughts on Twitter. Very entertaining.
Thank you. I definitely will.
Big shout out to our guest tonight, John Kelly. Tonight for him. Yeah. I know. I do like the earlier show.
It's weird that it's
it.
still light out right now.
I know. I'm like, oh wow, we could actually go for a run if we wanted to. Just fantastic storytelling, and again, congratulations, John, on crushing it. We can't wait to follow Grand Round again. That's gonna be awesome. Do you have like is it July? Are you looking at doing it? Is that like the best weather window?
Probably in the June timeframe sometime.
June. Okay.
Which also gives the advantage of, like around the summer solstice in Scotland, technically it's never night. Like it gets to astronomical twilight, and that's the worst there is. So,
That's crazy that you could
Bonus.
Basically have light 24 hours. Because why not? Thank you, John, for joining us today. And for everyone who maybe is watching here on Patreon, again, just go follow him at Random Forest Runner on the social media channels. It's worth your time. He's tweeting a lot, posting
just
photos and videos.
Content.
Just for the snack content alone, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
But a big shout out to our guest.
I do have my list of favorite junk food on there. Is on my blog. So,
Perfect. And as I mentioned before, when John finishes the recap blog, I'll post the link to that in the description of the main show. I can't wait to read it myself. So Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week for more Ginger Runner Live.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.